Hello? Hello. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So today we're talking about Flayed Ones. We're going to be covering some basic stuff about them in a good Necron list, some good coherent units, some nice stuff. Uh, so that's more or less the plan for this video. Feel free to, uh, I don't know how I'm going to do timestamps. Feel free to go to this time for specifically the rules and go to this time for the lore. But hopefully this will be a good comprehensive guide into flayed ones, well, not who they are, that's the point. Rather, what they are, how they work, what are some good unit combos, and yeah. Before we do this, uh, thank you for making the Necron video pop off. That is very, very good. Thank you. So if you like more of this content, see other videos. I don't know if I'm going to put cards or just like put the thumbnail. I also don't really care. But feel free to go see my other tutorials. The 50-minute one is a basic 40k recap. The Space Marines one is a basics for Space Marines, and the Tyranids one is a basics for Tyranids. Yeah. Thank you very much. And above all, thank you to the guy that actually commented on the last video to tell me to improve my stuff. There's no hard feelings. All commentary is good commentary at this point because I want to make these videos not only educational to help you guys build good lists or just discover 40k, but also to, be entertaining. That's first and foremost the point. I'm supposed to entertain. So hopefully I'm doing that. And if I'm not, let me know. Let me know how. So I'm gonna be shotgunning jokes a bunch. Let's see if any of them land. Flare virus. Right. Got some spark notes here. What is the flare virus? The flare virus is a Necron virus that was pretty much given to the Necrons because of the Flayer Catan, who I think is the first and only Catan the Necrons have ever killed. They they evidently learned from their mistakes because they fucked up once and they will never fuck up again. That's why the Necrons break the Catan into shards and capture them, as opposed to outright kill them, because they could. Their weapons are broken powerful. And maybe I'll go into a video about that actually. Let me know. Would you like some recap of whatever War in Heaven lore I can find? Necron weapons? Comment down below. I'm more than happy to do this stuff. It's genuinely a pleasure for me. So, yeah, that's the flare virus. It's given because of a Catan that was killed, and in its dying moments, it threw this virus out into the void. So, that's what it is more or less in the why of it. But what does the flare virus actually do? That's a very valid question. Because as I'm sure you notice, between the two images that maybe are up on the screen now, the Flay ones look very different from normal Necron warriors or immortals or an overlord or the Canoptek death buckets. They are sharp and pointy and covered in flesh. Why? Okay, so and here's a lore bit. Necrons that are infected by the flare virus, they tend to go a bit crazy. So the flare virus works usually by proximity, which is why you can't attach any units to the flayed ones, but also why Necrons do not like having flayed ones around them, to the point where they may just straight up kill them on sight in the lore if they get too close to a specific tomb world. So they spread through proximity and I think direct contact. And they turn these normal Necrons, who I have to make a correction from the last video, they did not lose their consciousness, they lost their souls. The lords and overlords retain more consciousness or more soul to be able to have more consciousness, but every Necron is conscious. So the flare virus actually eventually wears down and slowly degrades the user's consciousness, turning them into these mindless murdering machines. So they'll become more like Novak. They'll want more murder and blood and death. They'll be very attracted to that because the virus is turning them fucking crazy. And then one of the final stages is they'll actually start getting hungry. Even though they can't feel anything, they'll start feeling this almost phantom pain of hunger. And so they will try to eventually, quote unquote, eat the flesh that they carve up, that they flay off the enemies. And of course, this doesn't fucking work. They're robots. They can't eat. So instead, what they'll do is they'll put it into whatever orifices they can, jamming it into like their mouths and into their quote unquote guts, like the wires that you see under the Necron ribcage, to try and eat, quote unquote, the flesh. And they cover themselves in it as well. Which is very scary, in addition to the fact that flayed ones are batshit insane and do not really care for the whole tactics thing. They'll just beeline towards whatever thing is alive and carve it up like sashimi. There's also a worse thing than just the flayed ones, even though they're already quite bad for literally everyone, including their own faction. There's the Flayer dimension, or the flayed dimension, which is an entire pocket dimension dedicated to the flayed ones. So they actually exist in this tiny little dimension. I don't know if this is still canon. This is really just from what I remember and a couple Google searches. So do be warned. It could have changed between when I got in the game and now. But from what I remember, they have an actual pocket dimension, which allows them to kind of show up in and out of reality. And this pocket dimension is unrelated to the warp. It's not like a chaos warp thing. Necrons don't do that shit. That's cringe for them. Instead, it's literally just a pocket dimension which they exist with like skulls and bodies and corpses where the flayed ones go and eventually, well, decay and die because it's a virus designed to kill the Necrons, but make them crazy while doing so. But additionally, they use this dimension to teleport, quote unquote, which is why you'll see in the 10th edition rules, flayed ones have not only stealth, but infiltrate, which is fucked for a melee unit because you can camp them on an objective and just be like, hi, you want it? Come get it. Which brings me to the tabletop. This will be the tabletop section, time now, like 7, 8-ish minutes. So, flayers or flayed ones in the tabletop. They've changed a lot since 9th edition. In 9th edition, they're slow, pretty alright melee elite units. Not the best. However, in 10th edition, they are, I'd say, rather quite good. Because of a couple of little things, little knickknacks, little niche things that make them particularly good. From memory, I think they only move 5 inches, which isn't very good. They're slow, but I still say they're worth bringing because they have relatively good melee, especially anti-infantry. Now, you'll see this specifically with the fact that, yes, they have sustained hits 1 and hit on 3s, but because they have 4 attacks per model, they're an assault intercessor squad because they have the chainsword profile, which I think with an extra attack. And not only that, they have twin linked, which allows them to reroll wounds, which is fucked. So, on a critical hit, they become attack 5 or more. They hit on 3s, and they can reroll all failed wound rolls. This, paired with their specific ability, which pretty much means at half strength, if any hit the unit makes is an instant crit. Instant crit on any hit. 3 ups, crit. So now they're making 8 attacks per model. fuck. That's particularly good at cutting down chaff. Really, really good. 8 attacks per model is very good, but they're not exactly tough. They're kind of weak, but stealth means that shooting them is a bit of a pain because you add a -1 to ballistic skill. Space range shootings at them will be on 4-ups, and infiltrate means that they can be within charge range of a marine in 1-2 turns. So by the time that the marines are shooting at them, they can be charging at them. Very good. And they also hit on 3s, which I think is better than immortals and warriors, which hit on 4s. So that's very good. Now, generally, a good way to field Flayed Ones is running the, I think, Annihilation Protocol detachment, because that allows you to reroll charges, and when at half strength, add 1 to the charge as a bonus thing. You don't replace it, that stacks, which is very good and makes Flayed Ones become extra scary. Very extra scary. Because generally, Flayed Ones, the big issue with 9th edition is they were alright melee and they could teleport, but they were just too slow. They wouldn't get into melee in time, they get cut down, blah blah blah. 10th edition. Looks like they fixed this problem, haven't they? Ooh. Because they get infiltrate, you don't have to worry about turn 1 not being allowed to deep strike so you can run into the enemy's backline. No. They're just there. That's a problem. In addition, with reanimate. Oh no. I can foresee some cheesy bullshit happening in the near future of probably, and this is what I think. I think ideally a Flayed One squad would be, instead of one 10-man blob, it'd be better to field 2 5-man blobs, and actually you want them to go down to 3 2-ish models. Because just hear me out. Hear me out. So, 10-man squad goes below half strength when it has 4 guys. But bringing it back to full strength is going to take a fucking while because reanimation is only D3. 2 5-man units, although it is 2 units, also goes at half strength or below half strength on 4 models total, because it's 2 for one unit, 2 for the other, because you can't have half a model lost if they only have a single fucking wound. So they go below half strength on 4 models, like with the 10-man squad. However, you're not rolling 1d3 for 10 guys, you're rolling 2 separate d3s for 2 5-man squads, so you can bring them up to full strength after a melee encounter, while proccing all the rules, rerolling charges, +1 to charges, all hits are a crit, sustained hits 1 pops off for every single attack, so you're making up for all the losses, because you are now making 8 attacks per model, and not, what, 20-ish attacks if you had the full unit, which is better than 16, but you're not missing out on much, buddy. And that's 18 attacks for 1 unit. That's you have 2 units. Big ouch. In short, you're able to choose the fact not choose, but also really choose the fact of going below half strength, getting all the rules, and then going back to full strength. And you'll lose the rules because you're no longer below half strength. But by then, melee is done, and you're in, so you don't have to worry about the reroll charge, and you've already cut down a big portion of the enemy unit with 8 attacks per model, because sustained hits automatically proccing is very good. When you go back to 3, 4, 5 models in your units, that's like 20 attacks per unit in a 5-man unit. There's 2 of them. That's 40 attacks, easily enough to mop up the Space Marines you have just ripped apart, or the Guardsmen that you'll probably just steamroll. So yeah, very, very good in my opinion. I think that's the best way to field them. Maybe have some Scorpec destroyers or something like that, or the other ones, the fucking, let me what's their name? Locust destroyers. There we go. some Locust destroyers or Locust heavy destroyers, because the big 6 attack gun is good for sort of semi-elite infantry. You can cover the ranged weaknesses, and then melee time, baby. Woohoo! Um, yeah. So that's how I imagine they'd be best fielded. That's how I think they'd be very good. Bit of a caveat, you can't attach leaders to it. And I talked about this before in the lore section, because they don't want the flare virus. That shit's bad. So leaders don't attach. I'm pretty sure our abilities still work, but leaders do not attach. You do not know overlord bonuses. But other than that, I feel like Flayed Ones are kind of just a pretty baller unit. They're just straight up good, because you can run them with an entire detachment based on them and destroyers with the Annihilation Protocol detachment, or you can run them as the Deep Strike detachment, having your guys with Infiltrate, a bunch of guys that Deep Strike, and all of a sudden being a rush army, and you just sort of slap them in because you need to fill up the space. So that's quite nice. I feel like they are just a fun melee unit that you can either focus in a list or slap into a list, which ultimately is very nice. It's very good having a unit that you can choose to bring and not bring, and revolve and not revolve, which gives you that, as mentioned before in the Necron video, ultimate customizability, adaptability, and versatility. Delicious. Though I will say, particularly good when paired with Locust Destroyers, or if you want to go to a full melee onslaught, the Scorpec Destroyers. Because they'll get rid of the elites, and your Flayed Ones will mop up the rest of the infantry. Very nice. I would say they are very, very good melee units to bring now, because of that infiltrate, stealth, and all the rules that you can cheese by bringing, I think, 2 5-mans instead of 10-man. Well, that's just my thoughts on Flayed Ones. You know, use ranged destroyers to cover ranged weaknesses, melee destroyers to accompany the Flayed Ones, or melee destroyers running up the board while the Flayed Ones are being a nuisance. You can run them as like a distraction. Slap in a couple of Immortals so you can have even better shooting. Or fuck it, go full melee Necrons list. Flayed Ones, Scorpec Destroyers, Lich Guard with shield, Overlord but you never use his gun, and then, I don't know, the Nightbringer or Void Dragon but fuck guns. Boom, melee list, instantly, and because it's Destroyer called Annihilation Protocols, revolves around them some fun monster and lord units that you can just sort of dick around with. Good 1,000-point list. You want to expand that? More Flayed Ones. I will just say, though, on a finishing note for the rules, careful with Flayed Ones. They're not tough, but they come back. That's not the same thing. If a unit has enough firepower to level a 5-man squad, it will. Flayed Ones are not tanky, they just come back. So yeah. Hopefully, this video has summarized, covered, pretty much broken down Flayed Ones, why they're good, why you should definitely bring them in a list, in my opinion. I'd love to see some of my friends bring Flayed Ones. Fuck, I might just buy Flayed Ones, paint them up, and give it to them, because they are just cool units with the whole thing. Yes, I like Night Lords, how could you tell? Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to put a like, maybe a comment. Tell me if I did good this time. Tell me if you like this sort of style that I'm going to try to put into more videos. Tell me if you don't. Tell me if you want to, I don't know. Do you see me do a backflip? I can learn it, but yeah, it's something I could do. And possibly even chuck me down a subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully, if you want to see more Necron content, this video will blow up. If you don't, I don't know, I'll make something on Death Guard. I play Death Guard. I'm itching for a Death Guard video myself, but yeah. Then yeah, hopefully you guys can let me know about this stuff. So I saw this image of the Void Dragon.
Rocky Road McDonald's.